What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Alex Cuesta, and with me today is an on-air personality for the Philadelphia Eagles, and she also does freelance Big Ten Network and Major League Soccer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Gabriella DiGiovanni. What's going on, Gabriella?
Hi, thanks so much for having me on. I know we've been trying to do this for quite some time, so I'm excited. We finally figured it out.
Absolutely, yeah. And for those keeping score at home that listen often, if you're listening right now, you can actually go and log on to the YouTube channel because we're doing a video, and Gabriella is the first official guest to be doing a
Ooh.
video podcast with me. I did one with my brother for Cuesta Dos, our other show, but Gabriella's special, so we get to. So we're gonna get right into it, and
Let's do it.
you let me know that you're a Philly sports fan.
I am.
And you now have the privilege, obviously, of working for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I just want you quickly walk me through what you've done as a reporter, all leading up to coming to Philadelphia. And basically, you're LeBron. You came home, so.
Whoa.
High praise
I don't know
there.
about that. I don't know about that.
But just give us a walkthrough of exactly where you've been, what you've done to bring you over to coming over to Philly.
Yeah, so born and raised in Philly, grew up huge Eagles fan. So it's funny now at work sometimes, people who know me really well, always say, is it so crazy? And some days I don't really think about it. It's going to work and I love working there. And then other days I take a second and I'm thinking, okay, wow, this is happening. If you told 8-year-old me this, she would, think that 25-year-old me is the coolest person in the world. Exactly. So I went to Ohio State for undergrad, did something a little crazy, didn't know a single person in Columbus, never been to Ohio. Went to Ohio State, had the time of my life. It was the best, education-wise, socially, personally, everything. It was awesome. And I had a lot of opportunities, internship-wise, to cover sports and really learn and mess up. You have to mess up.
I could only imagine.
To learn, exactly. So
I think I've messed up plenty on the podcast, so.
But it's good. You get better, right?
Exactly.
But it's good to do it at, the college level before you are on live television when there is no room for error anymore.
Yeah.
So I interned for the Big Ten Network in college, and that opened a lot of doors for me along the way. And I interned for the local station in Columbus, WBNS 10 TV, and that's where I learned everything. Everyone I met at 10 TV, I owe my life to, what it feels like, because you learn the nitty gritty, and it's not just about, being on TV. That's kind of like the last thing on the list as a journalist. Once you get in front of the camera, that's the last thing. But so I had the best time at Ohio State, a lot of opportunities. And then I actually started my career in Boston.
Jesus. So I'm a New York fan, and now I'm being sandwiched. You're in Boston and Philly too,
Philly.
Sandwiched by two of the most hated places.
Crazy. I know. I worked for the New England Revolution. I was the team reporter.
Oh, go soccer.
And yeah, worked at Gillette Stadium, was in Foxborough. And then from there went to Chicago. Did a lot of freelance for the Big Ten Network, the Chicago Fire, kind of kept up with the Major League Soccer thing. And now I'm here in Philly with the Eagles.
That's just amazing. And it's so much fun. And, you have such a cool story. And you mentioned you have attachments to players, but it's just become so different when you're a reporter and you're traveling. And just, what was it like to know some of these players and see them as, instead of the superstars that I imagine we all grew up looking at as, all right, they're real people with real people problems. Yeah, they make a lot more money than we do, and they could do a lot more things than we do, but they still have all the same real people problems we do. Did you encounter a lot of that as you started interacting with them more?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's always at the top of my list of things that I love about being a journalist and what really draws me to it. I like humanizing athletes because they are humans. I love talking X's and O's, and I know we'll get there. I love that.
Definitely.
But I love the storytelling too. And so of course I've encountered that. My senior year of college, I was honored enough to cover NFL Pro Day at Ohio State.
That's awesome.
For the Big Ten Network. Yeah. And that was a pro day with Pat Elflein, Malik Hooker. I mean, most draft classes as of late coming out of Ohio State are pretty stacked, but that was a good one. And that was cool to see because you're standing there And there's Bill Belichick in the room, Mike Tomlin. There are, I mean, scouts and head coaches and managers from all over the league there at the Woody
That's
Hayes Athletic Center.
wild.
And you're just watching these kids, they're kids, take a shot at living their dream and making a whole lot of money along the way. So that's pretty cool to see, even going back to sorry, my headphones keep sliding off my head. Going back to Boston, my first year there, the third string goalkeeper is now the starting goalkeeper for the Revs. I just saw last month he got called up to the U.S. men's national team, but at the
That's
time
great.
he was watching the games from a suite when I was there, third string. You see him grinding at practice, at training every day.
Yeah, the hard
So
work and
that's super
everything.
cool. And you get really invested. Like I've of course, Matt Turner, great guy. I keep up with a lot of the guys I've covered what they're doing, and women too. I covered a lot of women's soccer at Ohio State. A lot of those women now playing the NWSL. That's super cool to see. Kelsey Mitchell, she was a standout basketball player at Ohio State. Awesome person. She's now in the WNBA. So
yeah,
once you become a reporter and you learn these athletes, I'm no longer I love Ryan Howard, I love Ryan Howard, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, you become kind of attached to these people and you love seeing their story unfold.
So, speaking of your love for certain players, I'm going to let you have a chance to take your journalist cap off and put your fan cap on, because I know you can't talk about this current Philadelphia Eagles itineration, but you can talk about the Super Bowl, and you can talk about what you felt like. Take your journalism cap off as a fan watching the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and then even before that, watching your Phillies win a World Series.
Yeah.
There are fans that go through their whole lives just hoping to see championships. And, I've been fortunate enough to be a Yankees fan. I'm a Devils fan, so I've seen some. But I'm also a Jets and a Brooklyn Nets fan, if you can see. And I've suffered. Yeah.
The Jets. Yikes.
There's a reason why I didn't put them on the itinerary. We're not talking about the Jets today. I talk enough about them and complain about them.
You have Kyrie. You're doing pretty well.
We're doing okay. We can pump the brakes. I listen, I'm a seasoned Nets fan. I understand that what can go wrong will go wrong.
Yep.
But just put your fan cap on. What was that like, sitting there watching these teams that you grew up and experiencing, and then realizing that you also have the chance to interact with these people that you idolize, that you just saw won a Super Bowl for the city that you cheered for your whole life?
Yeah. So I guess first back to 2008 when the Phillies won the World Series. Growing up, my dad would take me to Phillies games all the time. That was our thing. That's what we did. The reason I love sports, I'm even in sports, is because of my dad. I learned everything from him. I always tell the story. My dad has 5 sisters and then had 2 daughters. So I kind of became his bro, right?
Yeah, you were the little boy that like kind of made up for it, but you weren't.
But I wasn't, right. And so Sundays, I just was kind of addicted to watching. I don't know why. I truly don't know why. I don't remember the first time being interested in watching football, but I would ask constant questions because I don't know if I wanted to be able to talk about it with my dad. And so I wanted to be educated so I could talk about it, but I asked a million questions and that's how I really learned. And then in the summertime, we always went to Citizens Bank Park. Well, the vet, I was at the vet a few times, but then Citizens Bank Park. And so my relationship with my dad really grew going to baseball games, sitting 9 innings and batting practice. We always got there early.
Did you keep score? Did you have a scorecard? Tell me you were the scorecard kid.
I didn't actually, but I always had my glove. I was ready. I was ready to catch a ball.
Listen, at least, thank God we're not in the era of crazy phones and that you carried a glove instead of a smartphone and you weren't getting hit by a baseball.
No, I always had the glove. I was ready. So that's where I really developed a relationship with my dad. So when the Phillies won the World Series, it was so cool. I mean, for a million reasons, but it was more cool because I was in 8th grade when they won. So I felt like my whole childhood, when you're in 8th grade, you think you're so old. My whole childhood came to this moment and we won the World Series and I was ecstatic. So my dad actually pulled us out of school the day of the parade and we went down. And I was in all my glory. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I actually found a picture recently of us at the parade. It's hilarious. I was
You
in
need
the
to put that up on
depths,
social media. You
in
got to
the
throw back
depths of
Tuesday
the
that.
awkward stage, the braces. It was all, we had it all going on. But then, I mean, the Eagles were always my one true love. Love the Phillies, but the Eagles always kind of did it for me. So when we won the Super Bowl, I was actually home at the time. So to be able to watch the Super Bowl with my dad and we won, it was like, it felt like I was living a dream. I say to this day, I said my wedding day won't be as good as the Super Bowl. So
Oh my God.
if my future
I
husband's
feel
out
bad
there,
for your
I'm really
future
sorry.
husband. Oh my God. There's nothing you can do unless you have the wedding on the 50. That is it during a game, like halftime shotgun wedding on the 50. That will only, and Gabriella's not going to be in a gown. She's going to be in like an
No.
elongated uniform.
No, it was the best. I mean, it was amazing.
You know, that's fantastic. And, you know, it's just fun every once in a while because I've talked to some journalists and I find it's tough for some of them to take that journalist cap off, to take that reporter cap off.
It is.
And I think it's just nice to let you guys put, you know, for lack of a better term, let your hair down a little, even though your hair's already down.
I mean,
but,
because how did we get into sports in the first place? We were fans first, right?
And that's
I mean, there's a reason we
keep,
love what we do.
And that's what I try to keep with this because I'm just a fan. I don't care if this ever takes off. If not, whatever. I'm always going to be a fan. So I'm going to treat this like a gigantic fan that I am in sports. Now, I have to, you know, as much as it hurts me to say, Philly is on the uptick in terms of sports.
Yeah.
You know, the Eagles are not having as good of a year as they want, but they're still right in the mix for a playoff.
Yep.
The Sixers are in championship mode 100%. You have the Phillies who made a big move today getting Zach Wheeler, which was massive.
Yeah, for a lot of cash.
A lot of cash. But you know what, though? He might be worth it. We'll find out.
We'll see. If he's healthy, if he stays healthy.
But then something I don't think mentioned enough in the Philly area, the success of Villanova as a men's basketball program.
Yep.
People don't realize that Villanova is in the greater Philadelphia area.
Yep.
So all that success going on there.
The Flyers. They're on a 5-game win streak right now.
The Flyers, they're doing better than they have in a long time. They have not been really good since Eric Lindros left. I'm throwing some real names out there. Yeah. And but just being a Philly reporter and fan, what is your outlook for upcoming, you know, future right now? Because it's looking pretty good in the Philly sports area.
The future's definitely bright. You know, I don't think we're in a time like we were not that long ago where it was kind of like, okay, guess better luck next season. But for every sport, you know, I mean, I remember being a kid and that heartbreaking, you know, Eagles playoff loss. And I remember eating my cereal the next morning before school and seeing a reporter on TV in her red coat outside of Citizens Bank Park saying, well, it's almost baseball season. I mean, it felt like that every single year.
Like, and after I have to go to school today?
Yes. And after the Phillies fell short, we're ready for the Eagles. You know, it just.
Or after Terrell Owens plays with a broken leg and probably should have won that one and didn't.
I had a T.O. jersey when I was a kid.
Eagles fans, any Eagles fan that gives T.O. any sort of crap, I'm like, you need to stop right now. The guy played with the broken leg.
I did have a T.O. jersey, and I did his touchdown dance around the house. I will admit.
You know, if you want, you can give us an example. Right
no,
now.
We're good. We're good. That's going to stay in the past.
Oh, man.
What were we saying?
Just
the
overall future. Yeah, Philly.
It's bright. It's exciting. There's definitely a lot to be excited about. I'm really excited about this Phillies team this year. I'm really looking forward to it. There's so much talent on that team. Yes, they need help in the bullpen, and hopefully Wheeler is the first step in that direction, but they need closers. They need help. But with all of that talent and a new manager who knows how to win, he's been there, he's done that. There's definitely a lot to be excited for. And I am ready for the season to start. But we'll see. I mean, obviously going into any season with new personnel, there's always question marks, but it looks good. Looks good on paper, but we'll see what happens.
Lots of things look good on paper, but
yes.
You know, but I think lately, I think it's kind of like the spirit of a city sometimes carries all the franchises around it. We saw that in Boston, New England area, which is completely negative for me, and I think you too, because I don't think either of us are big fans. You did have your Revolution time, but
I worked at Gillette Stadium. Yes,
you could be nice to some of them, not all, but but we're gonna switch gears over to NFL. You cover the Eagles, so you're very involved in the NFL. I'm putting you on the spot right now. Who you got for the Super Bowl?
Yikes. You know, I know the other night everyone's saying Ravens 49ers a Super Bowl preview. Would I be surprised if the Ravens are playing in the Super Bowl? No, I wouldn't be surprised. The NFC, though, I think there's a few front runners.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the Seahawks, to be honest. The Eagles played them very, very hard. The Eagles defense did a great job that game.
And the Seahawks are winning away from Seattle, which is something we haven't seen them do in a long time. And it's scary when they're winning away from Seattle. That is
here's the thing. Who's under center in Seattle? Russell Wilson. And you can never, ever, ever count him out. Ever. You just can't. And he's playing unbelievable football this season. So the Seahawks, yikes. Let's pick a winner. I mean, the Saints, Drew Brees, he's another one. How do you count him out? Michael Thomas is playing insane football right now. I mean, the NFC has me a little uneasy right now.
Got to put you on the spot. Pick one.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. Why don't we just go Ravens? I think that's a fun pick.
Ravens? I'm telling you right now, the Ravens are going to stumble.
You think?
Lamar Jackson is so much fun. But when push comes to shove and the ticky-tacky calls aren't being as called unless you're the Patriots, and just certain things are going on. Lamar Jackson's throwing ability scares me, and I feel like when you have that throwing ability negative when it comes to playoff time, yes, they have a good defense. Yeah, you can run the ball, but it's the best of the best playing at the playoff time.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I hate to say it, I know Tom Brady and the offense is in a slump, but New England is there until someone takes them away.
Yeah, but as we saw the other night, they're certainly beatable. I think a lot of their issues on offense were exposed, but also you saw that defense that everyone's been raving about all season can also be beat.
Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson took care of that. We'll see. Again, you saw Patrick Mahomes has some things to do. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl, but you got to go through them. The Texans looked fantastic.
Yeah, they did.
So again, predictions are fun, but there's still so much football to be played, which makes things really good because we're getting towards the end of the season and there's so much up for grabs.
There's a lot up for grabs, and that rolls me right into our next point because we're getting towards the final phase of the season, and right now is the time where we can start to look back at the beginning of the year and saying, wow, what did we see in that team? And wow, we didn't see this team. So who has been your biggest disappointments and biggest surprises for this NFL season?
Obviously, the Ravens are a huge surprise because you just thought, what exactly is this offense going to look like?
Mm-hmm.
People, before Lamar Jackson got to the NFL, people were already trying to make him a receiver. So they got some weapons around him on offense, and all you could wonder was, okay, what are they going to do with this? What is this going to look like? This is not your typical NFL run offense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously been a surprise because we really had no idea what to expect. That's been pretty cool. Mike Tomlin, I think you have to give a ton of credit to. I mean, he had a 4th-string quarterback out there the other night, and they won.
I have no idea how he's doing it. I've doubted him in the past.
You have to give him a lot of credit.
You can't now. He was a Hall of Famer before this. He's officially a Hall of Famer, no doubt, right now.
Yeah.
No doubt at all in anyone's mind.
I don't know if that's a surprise. I think that's a
Mike
great
Tomlin can't
story.
Be a surprise.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great story in the NFL. I don't know how many coaches, as good as you are, I don't know what you could do with a 4th-string quarterback and still come on top. It's weird to say that the Browns are a disappointment, but for the talent they have on that team, I think Freddie Kitchens is the problem in Cleveland. I'll be perfectly honest with you because I think Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than the way he's playing. I know you're either a love or a hate like Baker Mayfield kind of person, but just because he was a good college quarterback doesn't mean he doesn't need a good coach to develop him in the NFL. And I don't think Freddie Kitchens is developing a thing. You have OBJ. He should be slinging it all day long. He has no offensive line. That's an issue. They're going to have to address that in the offseason. But definitely a disappointment. I thought they were at least going to pick up some more wins than they did. They just look a mess. I think the culture there, even from what we saw from that Steelers game a few weeks ago, that's a culture thing too. So it's weird to say they're a disappointment, but it is a little bit.
I completely agree. The Browns are a disappointment because of just where everyone predicted them to be at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
It was their division to lose. No one saw the
Mm-hmm.
Ravens winning the division. They saw them being competitive, but
No.
everyone was
Yep.
thinking Browns 10, 11 wins, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing terrible. My other disappointment has to be the Rams. Jared Goff is not the guy we thought he was. McVay might not be the coach we thought he was. There's a lot of things going on there where they were the golden boys last year
Mm-hmm.
between those two, Cooper Cup. There were
Yep.
so many little things on the cutesy
Oh yeah.
relationships over there. And now it seems to all be falling apart. That defense is not as good as we thought they were going to be.
Mm-mm.
So the Rams have some issues. And I'm going to stay over in that division where the 49ers are my biggest surprise.
Okay.
I thought they were going to be good. Jimmy Garoppolo is the best looking human being in NFL, but he is playing better quarterback than I thought he would.
Well, and he was a question mark. I mean, no one
Yeah.
actually knew what Jimmy Garoppolo looks like as a quarterback.
No.
We really had no idea.
He could have been, Matt Castle, where he looked good because he was on the Patriots, and
Yep.
then he goes somewhere else, and he's okay. He's NFL caliber, but he's coming into his own. He still, I think, is the game manager tag,
Sure.
but
sure.
you could see the ability to be much more than a game manager at times.
I think their defense is the biggest story. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
obviously getting Nick Bosa is huge, but even as an Ohio State alum, I was a little worried about Nick Bosa, not because he's not good. He's a
Just
freak.
his health.
His health.
Any
Just
Bosa's
his-
health. Him and Joey.
Exactly. And really, what was it? I think rookie mini camp, I think he got hurt again. And
Yeah.
it was scary to hear that he was injured in rookie mini camp when the last time he played football, he had pads on his body was
Mhm.
the September before then. So I was a little worried. But he's playing out of his mind. That defense is insane. And which also is kind of like the Bears a little bit last year in the sense of
Yeah.
if the offense stumbles a little bit, even, down the stretch here, that defense is going to pick them up. That's how the Bears found success last year.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And, it kind of, you have to look at John Lynch because a lot of people were like, is John Lynch going to be a good GM? And there was question marks because he was, not too far off from being a player going in. Now he's the GM of the Niners. He made some moves. People questioned it, going after Jimmy G as aggressively as he did and doing certain things. And I just remember back to when the Niners last made their great run under Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick was very good, but it was a defensive thing. Navarro Bowman, Patrick Willis, they were just loaded on defense. And it was a similar situation where the offense was good enough. They made their plays. They were explosive at times, but the defense was making sure that they stayed in every single game. And then to see once Bowman leaves, Willis leaves, there was that other young linebacker who just straight up retired, who was going to take their places. And now to see what he's transformed his defense back into in a matter of 5 years, I think we need to tip our cap to John Lynch. I think he should be up there for GM of the year.
It is pretty impressive what he's done. I think when you see teams like that, mention the Bears, you can even go back to when Peyton Manning won his last Super Bowl. That was a defensive effort there.
Crazy.
That saying, defenses win championships.
Yep.
As much as we're in the era now of these high power offenses, you still have these teams or these defenses are putting on a show. And I think that's pretty fun.
You would enjoy me and my brother. We did our Cuesta Do show, which is our side show every week where we just talk about the week in sports. And he went on an absolute rant on how the modern NFL theory is a whole bunch of BS, where we're all infatuated with quarterbacks. But look at the best teams on top now. They run the football and they play defense. It always comes down to that. Always.
The funniest thing, you look at Cincinnati, they think they got the next Sean McVay with Zach Taylor. Oh, he was on McVay's staff. They just got their first win of the season the other day, and they don't even know.
Don't even talk about it. Don't talk about that first win.
To stick with.
We're not allowed to talk about that first win, Gabriella. Not on this show.
Why are you even trying to win at this point, right? Aren't we tanking for the number 1 overall pick? Come on.
But everyone wants Tua, and now Tua's hurt. Even though
you should want Joe Burrow.
We're going to talk about this because that's perfect transition right into college football. Because I don't think Tua's the guy. I do not trust Alabama quarterbacks.
The guy in general, like in the NFL.
In general, period. I think he's a talented kid. I think he could be a good football player. I don't ever see him being a great starter. I don't trust Alabama quarterbacks. Nick Saban is so good. He recruits
great system guys.
Their line is unbelievable every year. They can run the football. The defense is always good. So he made Greg McElroy, who is extremely intelligent, but he made Greg McElroy look like an NFL prospect. And then we saw he couldn't even break the lineup on a bad Jets team. That concerns me seeing Tua, but you are right about Joe Burrow. So let's talk about the college football playoff ranking real quick. So
now you're getting me in my
I know. Now you're in your LOC. You're fixing it up. Let's go. Got it. But so right now the rankings came out. The top 4 stayed the same, which is fine. Ohio State, LSU, Clemson, Georgia. Alabama drops to 9. We officially, I think, are going to see a year without Bama unless the committee decides to argue like they always do. Well, Bama at their best could beat so-and-so, so let's just put them in. I hope that doesn't happen.
Before the Iron Bowl, I was getting annoyed with everyone bashing Alabama for being a garbage team now without Tua. Mm-hmm. My problem with that was if you were going to rank them as one of the best 4 teams in the country, they're a team. So yes, you may have an incredible star quarterback, but if you remove him from that equation, that means the whole team is now just trash. I mean, he is one of the best receiving corps in college football, if not the best, right? Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, the offensive line year after year is just gritty, dominant at the line of scrimmage.
Always.
So to go and say, oh, it's all over without Tua, I didn't understand, especially as an Ohio State person. I watched Cardell Jones take Ohio State to win a national championship because that was a good team, right?
Yeah,
as good as Braxton Miller and JT Barrett were as a quarterback, they still had a good team.
And so that cycled through 3 quarterbacks in 2 years where Braxton Miller went to be a wide receiver, JT Miller,
right?
Barrett. I mean, and it's just, you cycle through so many and it comes to beg the question of, like you said, is it system or is it player? And even though these players are great, in college, you need a great system to be successful as well.
Right. And you have to trust, before the Iron Bowl, you have to trust the coaching and you have to trust these players. You have to trust the players. There is not a kid playing at Alabama that doesn't want to be playing at Alabama. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So you have to believe in all of that stuff. And obviously they took a huge hit by losing Tua. At the same time, you have to give Mac Jones a whole lot of credit.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, his first start, he's playing in one of the biggest games in college football. That's crazy. I also think it's a little insane how much people are bugging out that, Alabama, forget them now. Just take them out of college football together with 2 losses. They're still a good football team, right?
Absolutely.
They were just dealt unfortunate cards this year. And maybe it's good for college football to not have the same people at the same teams at the top. I mean, it's cool to see LSU in the hunt.
It's funny because that brings me to, is Alabama the reason why we should have an expanded playoff? Because if Alabama kicks and scratches, makes their way, only finishes with 2 losses, finds their way into the top 8, wouldn't it be great to see them kick and scratch their way in to playing maybe the 8th seed and playing the 1 seed in the first round of the playoffs? And then let's see if Alabama is who everyone thinks they are every year, where, they might stumble, but bar none, they're the best team in the country every single year.
Right.
I think it would be fun to see that situation.
And that's interesting. I've been actually going back and forth about the playoff expansion recently because I've always loved the idea of 8 teams. 1, selfishly, because I just want more college football. 2, I think it's a good idea. But I was scrolling through Twitter recently and I saw someone tweeting about, oh, you want a playoff expansion? Let's think about this. And he was breaking down these games, like these are playoff games and this team advanced and this team didn't. They were comparing Penn State, Ohio State. Like that's a playoff matchup. Penn State didn't win. Yeah. Then, this past weekend comparing, and that was such an interesting way to look at it because you don't look at those big matchups as those are obviously they're top tier matchups, but that is like a playoff caliber game. And one team rises to the occasion and one doesn't. I just think that was an interesting perspective that I never really considered. But another problem I have too is, do you really think Georgia is better than Alabama?
No, and I think the SEC East should never have a representative in the top 4 until that half of the SEC shows that it's better than anyone in the Big Ten. Yeah. Like, let's be realistic. It's Georgia and Florida and then everybody else. And if Florida's not winning, Georgia's winning. Because you can't tell me that Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Missouri maybe every once in a while. But
Do you know what my favorite fun fact is from
you.
this college football season? Is that Tennessee and Texas finished the regular season with the same record.
After Texas was back. Remember that? Texas is back.
Back
Texas
again.
is back.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
horns
yeah.
up, horns up.
Oh, yeah. Hook 'em, baby. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em. Yeah.
Yeah.
That worked out really
I just had to
well
add that in. When I figured that out, I was like, what?
Now it's got to be a win
cannot
for
be right.
Tennessee because Tennessee has just been every year.
7-5? I mean, that's not bad for the
Tennessee,
Volunteers.
That's
No.
that's the college football playoff for them
they're-
right there.
Yeah,
Like,
they're living it.
considering
They're
that
living it.
program has been so down, and the biggest expectations every year and the biggest letdown every year has got to be Tennessee.
It's a shame. Or
It is.
Rutgers. I mean, could you imagine being
Hey,
Rutgers? It's
Schiano's
sad.
back. I'm a Rutgers fan. Obviously, I'm from this area with
Yes.
Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy. Living
Okay.
in New York now. I'm a Rutgers fan. I actually had one of my buddies went to Rutgers during the Schiano
Okay.
heyday, played in that Louisville upset to almost get like. So I'm very invested in Rutgers. Schiano is
Okay.
back. How do you feel about Schiano being back in Rutgers? Is that really going to help them in the Big Ten in terms of recruiting? And, you know, he has a great pipeline within the New York, New Jersey area. And if Rutgers can keep them home, the talent in New York, New Jersey is unlimited.
He does. It's just, I guess you start to, if you have a kid in New York, New Jersey area and he's offered Rutgers and Penn State, where's he going to go?
Rutgers, stay home. Have pride in your home area.
I know, but like opportunity wise,
It's in the Big Ten.
It is, but should it be? Honestly, should Rutgers be in the Big Ten?
Hell no. But they had the opportunity. They're going to make a lot more money. They have a great TV deal.
They do.
And Greg Schiano is demanding that within his contract, they upgrade the facilities to Big Ten level facilities.
Good. No, and I firmly believe that they should be on the same level. It's just unfortunate when they're not. It's unfortunate for their players. I mean, like, do you want to bring your kids to Columbus every year? Do you want to bring them, you know, I was about to say to Michigan State, but forget them this year.
Hey, you know what though? Maybe if Rutgers just had O's on the side of their helmets every time they played Michigan, Harbaugh would just freak out, think it's Ohio State, and lose. Just lose. Just, you know, forget how to coach.
Don't get me on that whole situation.
And, you know, and he'll just stop coaching Shea Patterson at all and just let him go back to all the bad habits that he has.
God.
What, you know, I'll let you rant for a second. What is Jim Harbaugh doing when he plays Ohio State?
I don't know. I don't know. I've been really, honestly, I spent all weekend, even the past few days, just really listening to other people's opinions. And, you know, people have opinions on this whole situation.
Especially now with social media, everyone. I have a podcast. Here we go.
Here we are.
Yeah.
I have a problem with people really coming down on the players about how much they care about the rivalry. I don't think that's for anybody to decide but those players. And unless you're inside that building doing what they're doing every day, I just don't think that's up to anybody else to decide. Does Ohio State look like they care a lot more? Yeah, that's easy to say because of the way that they play.
Yeah.
When they play that team up north, we don't say the M word in Columbus.
Michigan.
But I don't know. I think there's a lot of issues. I watched something on Twitter yesterday. You can go read what I wrote in response. It was just kind of like making an excuse for Jim Harbaugh in the sense of, well, the coaches that came before him didn't win anything. So do you just have high expectations? And it's like, just because they didn't find success shouldn't make his results acceptable, right?
Yeah,
you brought him in for a reason.
Hoke. Let's compare them.
And that's
like,
kind of what they were doing.
Yeah,
there is none. And, you know, you're paying a man $7.5 million a year. Win a bowl game. Let's start there, right?
And you know what? Also, you have to look at it this way. What's the excuse for Harbaugh now? Urban Meyer's gone. That was your rival.
He was running his mouth about that this summer, wasn't he?
Urban Meyer's gone. So what is it now? I thought Urban was, you know, a good coach and that was tough and everyone gave him a pass because Urban is a legend and he was a great coach.
But now you have a first-year head coach that just made a fool of you on Saturday. And it's a shame because honestly, the first half of the game, Shea Patterson played really good football.
He did.
But the difference then was
adjustments,
halftime adjustments.
I think Jim Harbaugh didn't change his pants into a tighter pair. That's the end of it. He didn't change his pants into a tighter pair, and they got a little
I
loose, they got a little
just
comfortable, and that was the end of it.
and people say to me all the time too about the rivalry. They say, "Isn't it awesome to watch them just get killed?" Sure. I mean, for my nerves, it's great. But
For the rivalry, no.
in 2016, I was at the shoe when they went into double overtime. And that's a rivalry game. Even watching Alabama and Auburn on Saturday night, whoever won that game, it honestly didn't even matter at that point because that's what a rivalry game is all about. And
or
so
when Alabama and LSU meet often, like, lately Alabama and LSU, no love lost between those two teams, and it is a fantastic rivalry. Yeah, it's unfortunate to see such a great rivalry in Michigan and Ohio State be so one-sided. Like you said, being an Ohio State fan, trouncing them is great. You get to rub it in the Michigan fans' nose a little, but it comes to a point where it's like, is this a rivalry just on paper? Like, I don't feel it anymore.
And recently in the past few years, the Penn State Ohio State game has been way more exciting. That's been kind of what you circle on the calendar. I mean, Ohio State is not Penn State's rival. I'm going to make that very clear. Penn State people like to think that we are their rival. They need to go find one because it's not Ohio State. but the matchups in the past years have been much more exciting than
that was just like the older sibling just putting down the awkward cousin that comes to hang out with you and your other sibling, and it's like, no, you can hang out every once in a while. Not like all the time.
Yeah. Just chill. Let's just relax, okay?
You know what? It's always nice to see, the Ohio State meanie over here feeling themselves, telling Rutgers they don't belong, Penn State to go get some new friends.
No, but Rutgers is a shame. It's a shame. I want them to be good. I want them to be a part of the Big Ten.
So then they can feel like they're our rivals, and then I can knock them too. just get that far.
No, I just want them to feel part of the Big Ten. Like last year, Maryland played Ohio State. I mean, to the wire.
We don't talk about Maryland because Maryland has no idea who they are. It's like 1 week.
So now the Rutgers guy is putting down Maryland.
But it's like 1 week. It's like we'll play Ohio State 55-51 and lose, but then we'll play Ann Arbor Tech and lose 73-2. And it's like, who are they?
Yeah, I know. But hey, welcome to the Big Ten, right?
Yeah. So all right, I'm gonna put you on the line for more predictions.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. How do you think the playoff is going to shake out? I think we're pretty secure that I don't think LSU is losing to Georgia. So I think LSU is in. Oh, quick question there. Mm-hmm. If Georgia's out, do the Pac-12 or the Big 12 get a representative?
I guess first you see who wins the championship.
Mm-hmm. If Utah wins in the Pac-12, are they in? Or is Oklahoma get in just because of pedigree? You've seen the pedigree argument go terrible in the playoff lately.
Sure. Look, do you know what's weird to even consider about the fourth spot is they don't have a chance.
I mean, I hate that because it's football. I played football. Everyone has a chance. If it is a mucky, muddy game, if for some reason it is a monsoon, it is even. Especially when you have big programs going against each other. And
say LSU's won.
And if they are
there is no defense in the Pac-12 stopping Joe Burrow. None. And we know in the Big 12 they don't play defense. So
now all right, so if Oklahoma wins, is the committee just gonna put them in there because they want to see Jalen Hurts play in the playoff? In his final
I would love to see Jalen Hurts play in the play. I trust Jalen Hurts.
Me too, but is that right? Utah has been sitting there. If Utah and Oklahoma both win, Utah is ahead of them in the rankings, have been ahead of them all year, and then all of a sudden, just because.
Honestly, I guess they're going to have to look at the way in which both of those teams win the championships. What really is going to throw a whole wrench into the whole thing is, okay, say Oregon wins.
They don't get in.
But they're a one-loss. What's the difference in them and Utah?
They're Oregon.
But they're a one-loss team. They're a one-loss team, and their one loss came to Auburn in week 1.
And, I think that has to be a lot on the committee and where they're ranking them now. The current rankings and how they're just not getting as much respect. When I think if you're looking at it, Alabama's rightfully out of the picture, and that's fine.
Georgia's out. It's honestly comical that we're even acting like they're going to be in the 4th spot.
And it is what it is. They're there because I guess they're merit. But like you said, they shouldn't be there. There should be a realistic team with a team that has a chance of winning their conference championship.
And
So like
their
Utah should
loss,
be
their
forced.
loss came to an unranked South Carolina.
Exactly. So I feel like Utah should be keeping number 4 warm until proven otherwise.
Sure.
And then you let it play out. And like you said, I think Oregon's sitting there. I think Oregon's too far out to justify that jump. That, that's kind of what I feel about Oregon. I don't know. It's a weird situation in that 4th spot. They're going to have explaining to do regardless of what they do.
Yeah, it's going to be, there's going to be really happy people and really not happy.
Best case scenario for the committee is if somehow Georgia beats LSU, so they could just put LSU at 4 because LSU's not going to leave.
No.
And then Georgia could jump up to 2 because they hate Clemson. And there we go.
And I guess the thing that's really hurting Oklahoma is that loss to Kansas State. I mean, that's just an atrocity. But
every team gets one. And I feel like that's, undefeated's great, but that's why we have the playoff. Every team does get one right now. So
they get one, but like last year, Ohio State had that awful loss to Purdue, and that's really the reason they didn't get in.
Yeah.
So is that what's going to hurt Oklahoma?
They also didn't win their conference championship.
Last year. Yeah, they did. Ohio State.
Oh, did they? Ohio State won? Or was it 2 years ago they didn't win and then they still miraculously made it?
2 years. Yes. 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah.
Something like that. But
yeah.
But it is what it is. It's going to be interesting to see.
I mean, you can debate it all day. I just think it is the most interesting playoff scenario, I think, since the college football playoff began, because there just feels like there is such a separation from
now, Gabriella,
the top 3 teams.
Looking at this, I feel like the committee members look at this. I don't think they listen to this podcast, but they listen to the big national things and they hear this exactly going on.
Yeah, yeah.
Why change it? Why everyone gets pissed? We need expansion. We need this. But then we have these debates all over the nation about who should get in at 4, who's there, who's this. And in the midst of the NFL being the NFL, NBA is kind of in their middle lull, but they're still big. You have people taking up a lot of airtime on every major sports network arguing about
they have full shows on Tuesday nights, like every network. Yeah.
So why change? I would love to see 8. You would love to see 8. The world would love to see 8. But if I'm the committee, I'm looking at it going, why?
Yeah.
Everyone's arguing over our stuff. We're cool. Like,
and it's people get invested, and I think that's cool. I don't understand how people could just not love college football. I'm obsessed. But I think this is a way to, expand the discussion. It gives people things to talk about. It gives people a reason to pay attention. Because if you want to get in a debate, you better be ready to go. You better know what you're talking about.
Last question for you.
Sure.
Because right now, we talked about people getting in without winning conference championships. There's only 4 spots. There is 5 power conferences. I put them in air quotes because I feel like that's gone now with the way they treat it.
Yep.
Do conference championships matter as much as they used to? Like I said, if LSU loses, they're still in. No one's going to take LSU out. They lose. Unless Utah blows out Oregon 55-0 and really gets in on style points. What is the weight of a conference championship if you can either not get in or still lose and make the playoff?
I think it matters in certain scenarios. I mean, we just talked about Oklahoma and Utah and Oregon and Baylor are playing for it all, So in those scenarios, it surely matters. You think to the first ever college football playoff, if Ohio State didn't win 59-0 against Wisconsin, who knows if they would have gotten in. Exactly. Yeah. So I think depending on the situation, obviously that can be debated too. It's hard to say that they don't matter when we have a weekend coming up where they do matter so much. But I think they do. You get a little into muddy water when you have a year like last year and you got to put Notre Dame in.
You don't.
You don't.
You shouldn't. I'm sorry. When I said.
But it does kind of. That really muddies the water. We both
agree on that. you don't really. They make the choice not to be in a conference. You don't.
They showed exactly why they shouldn't have been in, so they did the talking. But on the field. But I think they do. I think they do matter. I guess there's times where maybe a team still put together an incredible resume and.
University of Central Florida. 2 years in a
Oh
row.
my God. Come on, man.
Don't come on, man. When we've seen Boise State and TCU both go to big bowls and take down Power 5 teams, it is not unreasonable to say that a University of Central Florida can't upset somebody
No,
in the 2 top years.
I'm sure they probably could. Who
But
those teams are, I don't know.
I wouldn't expect this from a major Power 5 Ohio State alumni to agree with it. So
I don't know. Maybe. I just wasn't in. Honestly, they turned me off with like the parade and the rings and the claiming that they're national champions. That's
I
really
loved it.
No, I hated every minute
moment
of it. I hated every part of it.
I loved every moment of it. But with that fun moment, that's going to conclude this episode of the Sports Opinions Podcast. Gabriella, I had lots of fun.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being my first guest on video. I'm sorry you had to look at me this whole entire time, but
no, it was fun. This was great. This is awesome.
Yes, it was a blast. Again, this is Gabriella DiGiovanni. She is the on-air personality, one of the on-air personalities for the Philadelphia Eagles, does freelance work for Big Ten Network and Major League Soccer. Anywhere people can find you besides all those places where you're just a million places, it seems.
Twitter and Instagram at Ella Dig. Ella's my nickname. So you can find me there. Everything's very much work sports related on those platforms. And then all of my work with the Eagles can be found PhiladelphiaEagles.com, the Eagles mobile app, and all of the Eagles social platforms.
Definitely go check all that out. And again, I'm Alex Cuesta, host of the Sports Opinions Podcast. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at @Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at Sports Opinions30, Instagram Sports Opinions30. Find us on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Hello again. And definitely go give us a high rating, give us a good review. It would push us up the list, and you can see my awesome guests and see this one in person on the video as we talk about everything sports. So once again, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Everyone, have a good one.